All right, so we will walk through DocuSign. I'm just going to go, since it's just you and I'll still go through everything kind of from start to finish. And then, I guess, as I said, interrupt me with any questions that you have as things come up.
Perfect.
So I'm going to get started this morning by going to my opportunities. For time's sake, I've already created an opportunity for this morning's training. So I'm going to click on the opportunities icons of the two hands shaking. And then I like to go to the all opportunities tab up here. And that just shows me a list of all my opportunities that I have. And I can see here's my 1234 Main Street opportunity. So I'm going to click on that. You'll see here's all the information about the opportunity, the address, everything that the MCA office would need. Because I don't want to spend a lot of time going through actual opportunities. Now, to get started with DocuSign, I'm going to click on the Documents tab. And then you'll see this button over here in the right-hand corner that says Start a Transaction. So I want to pause here because when you are going through the process of using Command and DocuSign, one of the main benefits of using DocuSign is that DocuSign is linked to Command. So you are able to upload documents directly from DocuSign into Command. So rather than having to download from DocuSign to your computer and then go into Command and then manually upload, you can just move it from DocuSign directly into Command.
Right.
However, in order to make that link happen, you have to click Start a Transaction from within Command. If you ever started a room directly in DocuSign, you're not able to retroactively connect that to an opportunity in Command.
Got it.
Also, if you do decide, if you ever wanted to use .loop, it'd be the same thing. You'd want to click Start a Transaction so you could link the two systems. So I'm going to click Start a Transaction, and this is going to open up DocuSign. If for whatever reason you have pop-up blockers on, it would prevent this new window from opening. So double check your URL bar up here to see if there's a little red square. Also, if you're using Safari, it'll prevent the new tab from opening. So make sure you're in Google Chrome. So I'm going to log in here, you to log in. And now it's going to drop me into the Documents tab of my new room. And I know that I'm in the correct room because up here in the top left-hand corner, it says 1234 Main Street - Start Pots - listing. And that's the exact same name of my opportunity. DocuSign also has this ID, so you can use this ID number up here in the top left-hand corner if you ever decide you wanted to email documents directly into your room. That's kind of a DocuSign 2.0 feature, but I just like to point that out because I do know that a lot of people like that feature in DocuSign. So if this is your first time coming into DocuSign, you have to confirm your NERDS number before you have access to the GAR forms. There are two ways to confirm your NERDS number, and I'll show you both. The first is when you're in the Documents tab, come over here to the top right-hand corner to the Add button, click on that, and then select DocuSign Forms. You'll then get this pop up with these two icons. So we are going to click on the Realtor logo because we need to confirm that we are a member of a Realtor association. And then it's going to ask for our NERDS number. Now, I don't know I've only met 2 agents that actually know their 9-digit NERDS number. So you can click on the Find Your NRDS ID right here. And this will open up a new browser window where you can use your last name, email address, or license number to look up your number. So I'm going to use my last name and license number. Just type that in, click Submit. There's my number, so I'm going to highlight. Trying to get all of it. Copy. I'm going to close this, come back over to DocuSign, paste. I'm going to make sure my last name is in there correctly. And then I'm going to select the Georgia Association of Realtors. So I'm just going to scroll all the way down to the bottom. And then Georgia Association of Realtors is up here towards the top.
Sheesh, alphabetical would be helpful.
Yes, you would think, but for whatever reason, it's just in whatever order that I guess DocuSign wants to use. And then I'm going to click Validate. It'll let me know that I validated 2 association memberships. And now, if this is your very first time, you'll also receive another screen right here that says that you accept the terms and conditions of the Georgia Association of Realtors. I've already confirmed my NERDS number a handful of times in here, so I don't have to do that. And then when you get this screen that says Add DocuSign Forms, that lets you know that you have correctly confirmed your NERDS number. So I'm going to click cancel here because I want to show you the second way that you can confirm your NERDS number. Just in the event that anything ever happens, you have to redo it. Up in the top right-hand corner where you see your picture or your initials, you can click on that circle and then come down to preferences. And then over on the left-hand side, click on integrations. And then if you scroll down just a little bit, here's your NERDS information. And right where it says clear there, you do have the ability to find your NERDS number, and the same way you put your 9-digit number in there, confirm your last name and your association, and click save. And you get that same accept terms and conditions of the Georgia Association of Realtors. And this will now allow you to have access to those copywritten GAR forms that you want to write your contract on.
Okay, instead of saying the Atlanta board, I have to choose Georgia Association?
Yes, because we use GAR forms. So as a member of any local board, we're automatically a member of the Georgia Association, and it's the GAR forms that we use.
Okay, yeah, I realized that. I just thought it would be Atlanta board. So, okay, got it.
So, yep. So now that we've confirmed our NERDS number, I'm going to go back into my room. So I'm going to click dashboard real fast. And then I'm just going to come back to right where we were.
Yep.
So now whenever you start a room in DocuSign, it's going to drop you off right here in the Documents tab. So your initial thought is like, oh, perfect, I'm right here. I can start adding my forms that I want to fill out. No. Before you start updating and adding forms, you want to go to the Details tab, which is going to be this tab up here on the far left. And we're going to want to fill in all of the information for the details, because it's this information on the Details tab that's going to pre-populate the fields on the GAR forms.
Right.
So I'm going to get started up here in the top right-hand corner by clicking Edit. And then all the information kind of on the left 3/4 of the page is going to be about the property. And then the information in this right quarter of the page is going to be about our clients. So we'll start on the left-hand side. We can update the name of the room if we wanted to. And then I just say go through and fill in as much of the information as you know. You can always come back and change or add. So local currency, US dollars, MLS ID, just type in whatever the ID is. Origin of lead, company room status aren't necessarily important. Address, so I'm going to type in 1234 Main Street, Northeast. We'll do Atlanta, Fulton County, state, Georgia, 30324. Property type, we'll select residential detached. Year built, we can just do 2011. And there are no special circumstances. Listing detail, so we can just say today is going to be the listing date of January 8th. Listing expiration, we'll do February 8th. Listing amount $415. And I'll just type that in a couple times.
Okay, I'm a smidge confused because we don't know that stuff if we're writing an offer.
So my apologies, I should have clarified that. For the example this morning, I'm using a listing for the example, but I will go through and also show writing a purchase and sale agreement. You don't, if you were not working on a listing, then you don't need to fill in any of this information. But
okay, so this is when you first get the client and you've listed them, you're going to get them to sign all the docs. I'm with you.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then I don't have any offer information down here. Don't have any highest bid information, closing details. So there's a lot of information that you could put in here that you probably won't know and that isn't necessarily required.
Mm-hmm.
So now that I filled in all the information for the property, like I'm not going to fill in this like tax amount, like that's just extra work.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to scroll back up to the top, and then I'm going to start filling in the information and double checking the information for my clients. So because today's example, I'm doing a listing side, my clients will be seller 1 and seller 2. And you can see that Tony Stark's information is already here in the system because DocuSign pulled in that contact information out of command.
Mm-hmm.
So I will say this, 9 times out of 10, it works correctly. But if you add a contact to command and then immediately create an opportunity and then immediately create a room, it likely won't pull in that information because the information hasn't had enough time to sync with command.
Mm-hmm.
So always want to double check it. At the bare minimum, you need your client's name and email address. So I have seller one. And then another thing to keep in mind when you are doing a listing, and the reason I demonstrate a listing is for the seller's property disclosure and the community association disclosure forms, because those are kind of tricky. Keep in mind that seller one is going to be the person that fills out those forms in DocuSign. So if you're working with a husband-wife team, you'll want to confirm who will be responsible for filling in the information. So that way you can set that person up as seller one.
Got it.
Scrolling down, we have seller two. We have Pepper Potts, and then her email, which is just my personal one. And then scrolling down, we have listing agent one, which is myself. So here's my name, phone number, company name. It's going to default to Keller Williams Realty First Atlanta, but we do have approval from Lynn that we can just use Keller Williams First Atlanta. It's a small, simple thing, but the way that the field is mapped for company name, when you have realty in there, it takes up a lot of space.
Okay.
So I'll just finish filling this out. Atlanta, United States, Georgia, 30342. Now, if I were co-listing this with someone else, I could add his or her information down here. And I'm going to continue to scroll down because you go down really pretty far. Now we have the buyer's information. When you're working on the buy side, you want to fill in your buyer one and buyer two information. Again, you just need the name and email address at a minimum. Scrolling down, you can see buyer two. And we have buyer's agent. You can fill in as much of this information as you want. I do not recommend ever sending any documents to a co-op agent for signature directly in DocuSign. So if you want to fill in your co-op agent's information here, that's fine. I do not recommend sending them a document in here because the way that DocuSign works, it will likely, the document will never be considered finished. And I'll show that again when we get to the signing part, but I just want to preface that here. So as you're filling in the information, you don't feel like you're required to put the co-op agent's information here.
Mhm.
So you have buyer one and buyer two. And then once you have gone through, you've updated all the information about the property and your seller one, seller two, and your listing information, you can click save in the bottom right-hand corner. And now all of this information in the details tab is what will populate into our documents.
Yeah.
So now that we filled in our details, I'm going to go to the documents tab here. So the second tab. Now, one thing that's different about DocuSign versus .loop is that in .loop, we had to have our loops organized in a specific way for Lynn and Alita to review for compliance. Lynn and Alita will never look at your DocuSign room. Compliance takes place 100% in command. So you can organize your documents tab here any which way that you want. So it can be as organized or as messy as you want, whichever works best for you. But I do want to point out here that you have a room docs folder, but I do know that a lot of agents like to have different folders for their different documents to kind of help manage. So if you want to add additional folders here, come up in the top right-hand corner and you can click Actions, Add Folder, and we'll just give this a name. So I'll do Listing Documents and click Create. And now we have our Listing Documents folder and our Room Docs folder. Anytime that you add a document to your room, it's going to default into the Room Docs folder. So anytime you add a GAR form or you received a completed signed document, it will default into the Room Docs folder. So now that we have this organized, let's start adding our documents to the room. So to add documents, I'm going to come up here to the Add button, click on that. I'm going to select DocuSign Forms. It's going to double check that we are a member of a board. I'm going to leave this as DocuSign Forms Library. I'm going to select the library as Georgia Association of Realtors. And now it's going to pull up all 180 GAR forms. So here we use the Forms Finder to look up our documents. So we're doing a listing. So I'm going to look up exclusive seller listing agreement. You'll see it's going to pull up every listing agreement. So you do want to double check and read them because I can tell you from personal experience, there have been a handful of times where I've pulled up the wrong form and I have to go back and fix it. So I want the F101. Now, one thing you can do is you can use that number, the form number, to search as well.
Mhm.
So if we are going to do the seller's property disclosure, we can do F301. So seller's property disclosure. And then we want the community association disclosure, which is F322. And because this property was built in 2011, I think is what I select, I don't need to do the lead-based paint, but the lead-based paint exhibit will work and function the same way that the seller's property disclosure and community association disclosure do. So we'll walk through that here. And then I also want to pull up the purchase and sale agreement just so we can walk through that, since that's going to be a pretty important form for you to use. So I'm going to click that, and it lets me know in the bottom left-hand corner, I have 4 forms selected. So I'll click add, and now it's going to reload and add all 4 of those documents to my room. I will say sometimes DocuSign is a little slow. Be patient, like right now.
Mhm.
It's going. Hopefully it loads sooner than later. Now, I will say, I know that DocuSign is actively working to update all the 2021 forms. So that could be one of the issues, because I've been checking every single day, and more are the 2021 printing.
Right. So once you get this listing in and all your documents signed and you get an offer, you're going to go to the same room.
Right.
Okay.
So that's where, for me personally, that's where I like to use the folders. So I like to have my listing documents, and then I would have like offers under negotiation, and then I could create another folder that's for binding documents. And that way it just makes it easier for me to then update the correct versions into Command.
Yeah, I did that in .loop. So can I put all these forms in my, is that what that My Docs is, where I can go ahead and pull all these out and have them in one spot so it's easier? I just pull up my template of listing docs.
No. So templates work a little bit differently in DocuSign than they did in .loop.
Mm-hmm.
And the templates in DocuSign are not as user-friendly as they were in .loop, to be 100% honest with you. It can save you some time, but it takes a lot more time on the front end to set them up correctly. And then just knowing that the GAR forms are updated again in May or June, you would then have to go through that same process of all that upfront manual work of getting them set up. So I don't know. We can talk through that at the end to see if it's a good fit for you. There we go. But it may not be.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm just asking. All right, here we go.
So perfect. So now we have our forms, and like everything defaulted into the Room Docs folder. There's 2 different ways that we can move documents into different folders. The first way is if you roll your mouse over the document icon, this radio button appears in the top left-hand corner. So you can check that. And I want to move this one as well. And anytime you select a document, this toolbar will appear right here. You can roll your mouse over and it'll let you know exactly what each icon stands for. And I can click on the move icon, and I can select a destination. I want a folder in current room, and I'll select the listing docs folder and click move. The page will reload. And now those 2 documents have moved into my listing docs folder.
Okay.
And then the second way that you can move documents is by rolling your mouse over the document icon, clicking on it, holding your mouse down, and dragging it into the folder you want.
Even easier. Okay.
I just like to show both ways, because there are going to be times where you want to move 10 documents, and other times you're just moving 1 or 2.
Yeah, got it.
So now that we've gone through, we've added our documents, we've organized them, let's start filling out our forms. So we'll get started with our listing agreement. So to start updating, I'm going to click on it here, just open it up.
Now I can move them, I can drag them and put them in the order I like to on my screen, right?
No.
No. Okay.
Which is annoying. I'll exit out of this real fast. If you want to put them in an order, you can only change the order by this drop-down menu here. And you can put them in alphabetical order. You can put them in the time that they were added, or who the owner is. So, but now there is a workaround. So if you wanted to put them in name in like an alphabetical order, you could go through and you could be A-seller listing agreement, B-seller's property disclosure, and it would then put it in that order. It does take a little bit of work, but that is an option.
But I guess you could have dragged them in the order you wanted them as well, potentially, right? Or would they rearrange them?
They would rearrange.
Okay. All right, that's fine. I'll get over it.
Yeah, it stinks. I like things in the order that they were added, just so that it's easier for me to know as I'm going through a transaction, which
Mhm.
document is the most recent, counter offer form or whatever document I'm working on.
Right.
So I'm gonna start with the seller listing agreement. We'll open that up. And this is gonna be very similar to .loop, where we just kind of start at the top and work our way down and fill in the fields of information that we need. So you can see here, it's already added in the property address information. I will just add in the tax parcel ID. So I'll just type in a fake number here. Legal description. I'll do attach an exhibit here too. Scroll down, you'll see here we have our list price of $415. And this is a term of agreement date of starting date. Oh, so this is updated text. So we have this agreement shall begin on a date of, so we can do today's date, 2021. And with the listing public date of 8/1 to 2/8. Sorry, yeah, 1/8 to 2/8. Now that's updated 2021 printing text that we do have a handful of classes starting next Thursday, the 14th, then through the beginning of February with our alliance partners to go through the changes. But this is one of them. So that way, if you're working with a client and you want to go ahead and you can get that listing agreement signed, even though it's going to be 3 weeks before you put the house on the market.
Yep.
Marketing. So I'll just do FMLS, Georgia MLS, and KWLS. One thing I'm going to point out about this training this morning, this is not a training on how to properly fill in the information. This is about how to use the forms. So please refer to Lynn and Alita for anything that actually goes in these fields.
Yes.
Just because there has been some confusion in the past. And I'm nowhere near qualified to be a compliance broker.
Yeah.
So
I know how to fill them all out. So that.
I know that you are super experienced. I just want to, I've had some people in the past be like, well, Nick said he didn't do it that way. And just, don't want to create problems. Here's some additional fields, commission. I don't want to touch that. Protected period. Just put in 90 days. Agency not offered, sub-agency, dual agency. All right, so these are some additional circumstances. So I haven't gone through a training yet, so I don't want to mess with any of these new fields. Negotiation, seller does have the right. Continuing to scroll down, lots of verbiage. So it's really as simple as just filling in the field, selecting the correct icons. Scrolling down. Here, all of the brochures are uploaded into DocuSign, so you can select whichever ones you want to send. And then exhibits, so I'll do my legal description, exhibit A. Scrolling down, special stipulations. Wow, this special stips box got even smaller. So if you want to type in any special stipulations, just type it in here. You can add some more. Now, this isn't a big box, so I would imagine that if you have a ton of special stipulations that you want to use for your listing, you'll probably need to use the additional stipulations page.
Yeah. So if you check that, will it automatically pull in, or I'll have to go get it, I guess, after?
You would have to manually go through and pull that form
Okay.
up. Scrolling down, you see here it fills in our seller's information of their name and email address. So we'll leave that there. And then I'll scroll down. Now it's pulled in most of my information, but there are a handful of fields here that are blank. So I do need to fill them in manually. And it is frustrating. And my understanding is that DocuSign is working on getting these fields for the office code, license number, realtor association, all of those fields to automatically map because they're going to be the same on every single form.
Right.
And then, so just fill this in. And then Atlanta. All right, so now everything is good to go. Now, one thing that you'll notice here in this part of DocuSign is that I don't have actual signature boxes for myself or my clients. Now in .loop, I was able to sign right here. DocuSign works a little bit differently, and we will send this document out through an envelope for signature. So don't be concerned when you don't see signature fields here.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll click Save and Close. Give it a second. All right. Now the next document we'll walk through is the seller's property disclosure. So I'll open that up. And again, we'll start at the top and work our way down. So we don't have an exhibit number yet or an offer date. So, but it filled in the property address, so we're good to go. And then as we're scrolling down, you'll see we have all of these text boxes and all these places over here for check marks, but there aren't any actual text boxes there for me to fill in. That is on purpose because us as agents are not allowed to fill in any of the disclosures for our clients. So there are no text fields that are mapped to you or I as the realtor. Everything is mapped to seller one.
Yeah.
So as you're scrolling through and you see, oh no, there's nothing here for me to fill out, that is correct. And we'll walk through how your clients fill this out when we send them the document. So just going through, just double checking, make sure there aren't any fields that are missing. Here we go, clients' names. Everything is good to go there. So I'll click Save and Close. That's all I have to do. And then we'll go to the Community Association disclosure just to do a double check of that. Again, we don't have an agreement date. And it's gonna be the same thing where all these fields are here are empty. They appear empty because again, this is for seller one to fill in.
Oh, that's kind of a bummer because I always call the HOA and get the answers because they never know this stuff.
So there is a way that you manually could go through and fill this in.
Mm-hmm.
And I can show you. It's just, it's not preferred.
Okay.
So just scrolling down again, making sure that nothing is here and perfect. Seller initials, we're good to go. So we'll click Save and Close. So now we've updated all of our listing agreements. I do want to walk through the purchase and sale agreement, since that is a form you'll be using pretty regularly. So we'll just kind of pretend for this demonstration that I am a buyer's agent. So I'll just start at the top and work my way down. So offer date, so today's the 8th, so I'll do 1/8/2021. Now, if you've noticed, as I'm putting in dates, I put it in this numerical format. DocuSign is very particular about the formats of its fields. And if something is in a date field, it has to be in this numerical format. You cannot type out January 8, 2021. If you do that, it will cause an error and it won't save any of the information that you put on your purchase and sale agreement, which is a big pain in the butt.
Okay.
So just keep that in mind as you're filling in dates. So legal exhibit, MLS number, tax parcel ID number. Fill that in. Purchase price, so what the buyer is going to pay. So let's say they want to pay $400,000. And another thing you'll notice is for the purchase price, I don't put any commas in here. Now you can if you wanted to. Oh, it looks like they've updated that. In the past, you weren't able to put commas in there. It gave you a little error message, but it looks like they've updated that. So closing costs, they want to ask for $5,000. Closing date possession would be, let's do 2/11/21. At closing, the holder of earnest money will be KWFA. Closing attorney, we'll do Campbell and Brannon. Earnest money, we paid by check of, let's do 8,000.
They won't take a check for 8,000. Just FYI. Has to be
really?
a wire. Yeah, under 5,000.
I thought for
it has
earnest
to be a
money, you can do any amount.
to KWFA, they'll
Yeah.
they'll let us give a check for that amount.
Yeah. I thought it
Okay.
was just for closing attorneys when you're wiring money for closing.
Yeah, no, most attorneys won't hold more than 5,000 has to be wired.
But here I have
Definitely.
the holder of earnest money is First Atlanta.
Yeah, and so we do that. Okay, I didn't realize that. I thought they would only take 5,000 or less too.
No, because yeah, it's
I
my client.
never do that. That's why I always put it with the attorney.
Yeah. So due diligence period, we'll do 10 days. Lead-based paint was not built prior. So you can see here now that we get to the brokerage information, and for whatever reason, these fields, I don't know why they're mapped this way. This is DocuSign. They are obviously not realtors, so they don't know, but they're mapped really funny and they go over. So we'll just do buyer brokerage here. We'll do Harry Norman. They're representing as client. I'm representing my client as client. No known relationships. Let's do 12 p.m. on the 9th. Continue to scroll down. So it's really as simple as it was in .loop. So to scroll down, keep scrolling. Here we can uncheck the all cash exhibit. We have community association disclosure. I'll make that exhibit B. Then the seller's property disclosure, I'll make that exhibit A. Legal description, I'll make that C. All right, now this here is tricky because this is auto-populating my special stipulations from my lease agree or from the listing agreement, which is incorrect. So I will have to let DocuSign know they need to unmap those fields. But again, you can add in steps here. More steps, more, lots more. Now, again, this is a pretty small field for special stipulations. So you would probably need to use the additional special steps page. I can show you when we go into the envelope, there's a little bit of a workaround that you could do to make the font smaller so you can fit more text there. That being said, I don't think it's going to make you the best friend of a closing attorney or your co-op agent with a little teeny tiny font, but it is just an option. But I would recommend using your additional stipulations.
Yeah.
And then scrolling down, we'll double check, make sure our information is filled out. So here are our clients' names and email addresses. Now I want to point this out because in .loop, we could easily go through and delete our clients' email addresses. However, in DocuSign, if you delete or edit any field that was pre-populated, that will then change or remove that information from the details tab of DocuSign and would then subsequently remove or change that information on every other field in your room. So if I were to delete Tony's email here, it would then delete it from the entire room. So then when I went to send this envelope for him to sign, there wouldn't be an email address.
Yeah.
So, because I know personally, I don't like to share my clients' contact information with co-op agents just to be safe. So I will show you how you can hide their contact information when we go into the envelope. So scrolling down, again, we'll just do fill in the rest of this information. Their little map fields are funny looking this time. Fax number.
Probably because they're the new forms and now they got to go even kind of fix them up.
Yeah.
And
then you could fill in your co-op agent's information there if you wanted to. So now that we've done that, I'm going to click save and close. So we'll give that a second to load. So you'll notice here we have all of our documents. We've gone through and we've edited them accordingly. You'll notice that 2 documents are missing: the affiliated marketing and wire fraud prevention. That is on purpose. Those documents will be added in just a moment in the envelope. Since there are not any fields on those documents for us to update, the MCA office has added them as a template and we'll pull that in when we are creating the envelope. But I just wanted to point that out. So that way, if you ever come here and you're like, where's my wire fraud? You're not missing it. We'll add it in a moment.
Right.
So now that we've updated all of our documents, we now need to send them out for signature. And the way that we send for signature is through an envelope. And the way that Michael New explained envelopes to me was, think of an envelope in DocuSign like you would a manila envelope if you had hard copies of your contracts. And if you would have printed them out and you filled them in by hand, and then you organize them with a paper clip and then put them in that manila envelope, then when you saw your clients, you would say, here client, and you would hand that envelope to them and say, please sign this and hand it back to me.
Yep.
DocuSign works that same way. So there's two different ways that you can create an envelope. The first is you can roll your mouse over any of the documents that you want to create an envelope for, and that toolbar will appear, and you can select the create envelope icon. This will come in handy once you kind of get further down a transaction and you start to have a lot of documents in your room, because it's going to be a lot easier just to go ahead and add these 3 documents. The next way is you can just click on the envelopes tab, and then up here in the top right-hand corner, click on new. And now we can create an envelope. So we'll start at the top and work our way down. So envelope name, I do recommend that you name your envelope something that's going to help you identify them, because you're going to send numerous envelopes throughout a transaction. So you could send 10, 20, 30, 40 envelopes depending on how tricky a transaction is. So I would recommend labeling it something so you can keep track of: Main Street, exclusive seller listing agreement, and purchase and sale. Now the envelope name is for you. Your client isn't going to know it, but do make sure you keep it, client friendly just in case. The next step is going to be for us to add documents to the envelope. So these are the documents that we want to send out for signature. We have a couple options here. The first option is room docs. And this is going to be any of the documents that we have in our documents tab of the room. So I'm going to click on room docs, and it's going to show me all the documents that are in there. So now, since we just started our room, there's only 4. So this is pretty simple. But as you're going through a transaction, this is where you're going to have a ton, 15, 20, 30 documents that will be there, and you'll have to go through and decipher which ones you want to send. So that gets kind of tricky. So I'll click add selected, and we'll add these documents to the envelope. Give them a second to load. All right. Now it is at this portion of DocuSign that we add our affiliated marketing and wire fraud prevention disclosures. To add those, I'm going to click on use a template over here in the far right. And then I'm going to select shared with me. And this is going to load all of the templates that the MCA office have put together for us to use. DocuSign is being very slow this morning. I'll let these load. Okay, perfect. So as we scroll down, we see here we have our affiliated marketing and wire fraud, but these are buyer versions. And if I scroll down some more, I have seller versions. They are the same document. However, based on which side of the transaction you are working, you need to select the accompanying disclosures. So today we're working on a listing side. So I'm going to select the seller versions. And the reason that is because the signature fields on the disclosures are going to be mapped to seller 1 and seller 2 on this version. And up here for the buyer version, they'll be mapped to buyer 1 and buyer 2.
Yeah,
so if you accidentally select the buyer version, there won't be any fields for your clients to sign.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a huge deal. It's always something you can fix and add their signature, but it just is to help save you a couple steps. So I'm going to click add selected, and it will load those templates into my envelope. Perfect. Now, you do have the ability to reorganize your documents in the envelope in which order you want them to be signed.
Perfect.
So yeah, because I don't want this property disclosure to be the first one. To reorder them, just roll your mouse over the document, click your mouse down, and then drag it into the position that you want it to be signed.
Yep. Got it.
So start with my seller's listing agreement, then seller's property disclosure, then I want my community association disclosure, and then I want my affiliate marketing, and then wire fraud, and then I want my purchase and sale to be last. Now, I do want to point out that you have to reorganize them here. You are not able to reorganize them on the next screen. And if you don't organize them here, they won't ever go into a different order. So just make sure that you do it the first time when you're in the envelope. So scrolling down, now we're going to add recipients to the envelope. To do that, click on the add recipient, and we'll have a drop-down menu. We have 3 options. Whenever pre-tagged roles is an option, always select pre-tagged roles. It is very important that you select pre-tagged roles because that's going to ensure that your clients are properly mapped to the fields that they are responsible for filling in or signing. if you select room participants, there will be no fields for your clients to fill in or sign. You would have to manually add those fields. And I know you don't want to do that for the disclosures. So always select pre-tagged roles when it's an option. So I'm going to click on that, and it's going to have this pop-up window, and it's going to show all the roles that are available for signature. So I'll come over here and I'll select Seller 1, and I'm going to select Tony Stark from the dropdown. I'll come to Seller 2. I'll select Pepper Potts, and then Listing Agent, I'm going to select myself. Now your name may be in here twice, which is fine. Just select whichever one. It'll go to the same person. And then you see down here, we have a Seller 1 and Seller 2. Just ignore those. It's fine because you don't want to have your clients in here more than once. So I'm going to click on Add Selected. And it will load those contacts slowly but surely. All right. And now you'll notice the left-hand side of each one of the contacts, there's a field with the number 1 in it. This is going to be the signing order for these documents. It will default to 1 and everyone can sign at the same time. But if you want to reorganize it, so Tony Stark as Seller 1 is the first signer, and then I can make Pepper Potts signer number 2, and then I can make myself signer number 3. So in that way, Pepper has the ability to review all the information that Tony put in, and then I have the ability to make my listing agreement binding by being the last one to sign it. We also have a couple options within each of the recipient boxes. It's going to default to needs to sign, but we do have the ability to send to needs to view, receives a copy, or specify recipient. Receives a copy might be something that if you wanted to add your lender or your closing attorney, so once all the documents are signed, it can automatically send it to them. I've used this feature to also with sending an amendment to address concerns. So I was getting ready to go out of town one day, and I sent finalized the amendment to address concerns that everyone agreed to out to my clients, but I knew that I was going to be on the road, so I wasn't going to be able to send it. So I set it up to my buyer 1 and then buyer 2, and then me as the buying agent. And then I added a 4th recipient as the listing agent. And so after each one of us signed it, I set that listing agent to receive a copy of the binding amendment to address concerns. So that way he had it and we were good on timing. So that's just another way that you can use that.
Right.
The last option here is for more, and we have 2 options here. One is add an access authentication code. So if you have a client that is concerned about e-signing, you can always add a code here. And so you can designate a code of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or whatever. And this way you can say, hey, Tony, before you sign, it's going to ask you for a code. That code is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that way it can prevent anyone from hacking into his email address and signing documents and buying houses without his knowledge.
Okay.
And then the other option is a private message. So I'm going to add a private message here that says, hi, Tony, please fill in the seller's property disclosure and community association disclosure. Thank you. And this will be a message that goes just to Tony.
Mm-hmm.
So now that we've added our recipients, we put them in the correct order. I'm going to scroll down to the message for all recipients. The email subject is going to default to please DocuSign. I recommend you just leave it as please DocuSign and then update to 1234 Main Street. Use the seller listing agreement and purchase and sale. And then please review and sign. I'm keeping that pretty short for today, but whatever message you want to put there.
Right.
So once we've gone through all these steps of adding our documents, adding our recipients, pre-tagged roles in the correct order, and writing our message, I'll then click next. And this is going to take me to the documents editor page. And this is where I can go through and double check, make sure all the signature fields are added correctly. I can add any missing text fields and make sure everything is mapped correctly. Now, before we jump into reviewing all that, I kind of want to overview the layout of this page because there's a lot of information. Up here in the top left-hand corner, you can see my client's name, Tony Stark, with a drop-down menu. And then in that drop-down menu, you can see Pepper Potts and myself, and each one of us have a colored circle to the left. That color circle then coordinates with all of these fields on the left-hand side, as well as the fields that will appear on the documents. So we can more quickly visually see who is responsible for which fields. Below that, we have all of our standard fields. So if you need to add a signature field, an initial field, name field, text field, you can select the person that you want to assign that field to, add that field, and you'll be able to color code it to that correct person. In the middle here, we have a preview of the documents. You can see here's all of our information. You can go through, double check it. Then on the right-hand side, we have thumbnail versions of each one of the documents. So we have the first one is our seller listing agreement, and I can scroll through and it's going to show me which pages have some type of signature or input field by having these color tabs up here in the top left-hand corner. So I can quickly click on this page and it's going to show me who needs to sign and date which documents. So now that we kind of know the layout of this, now we can start going through and double checking the fields and adding some. So for the listing agreement, just scrolling through here, I realized I forgot to put in my legal description. Not a big deal. I can fix that here. So I can come down, select myself, Nicholas Corp, and then I can add the checkbox feature right here, and then just add that right there. And then over here on the left-hand side, I can click on checkbox values and check. And now that will be checked. So it shows that I have attached my legal description as an exhibit to the listing agreement.
So where did you add that? You would do that in your envelope, like at the, where do you do that? Because you didn't do that. You know how you added the templates for the wire fraud and all?
Yeah.
You would also need to add the legal description into the signing envelope somewhere.
Yeah, so I would have added that legal description in at the same time that I added my room docs.
Okay.
Yeah, I just don't have it for today.
Okay.
This is an example. But yeah, you add it then.
Okay.
I'm just going to scroll down, make sure everything looks good, which it does. Not missing anything, so I'm just going to scroll down. All right. Now we double check all these signing fields are correct. This date signed is going to automatically update that date to whenever they actually sign. Scroll down, double check my information. And now since I set myself up to be the third signer, I can actually make my listing agreement binding when I sign. And so I can come over here and I could add text boxes to the time block over here. So I can add a text box here. And then one thing I really like about DocuSign is I can right mouse click on that and copy and then paste that same field so I don't have to reformat it. And then over here for the date, I can just come over here to the date signed, bring that over here, and it'll automatically add the date. So now when I go through to sign, I can make this binding because one great benefit of DocuSign is that it actually sends out copies of all the signed documents once everyone has completed. So it just kind of makes it a little bit simpler. So scrolling down, we'll go into the seller's property disclosure. And now you can see here, all these fields are outlined in yellow. And if I click on Tony's name, I can see that Tony is the one that's associated with the yellow color. So I know that Tony's going to be the one that's responsible for these fields. Now, one thing you'll also notice is that this field is just outlined in yellow and is not filled in with yellow. That means that the sign is mapped to Tony, but it's not a required sign, or excuse me, a required field, which means that the signature, it means that DocuSign is not going to stop at this field for Tony to fill it in. It's going to jump from required field to required field and completely bypass all of these fields here. There's a quick little workaround that you can do that, that will stop Tony to fill in this information. If you click on the what year was the main dwelling constructed, click on it, then this menu will appear on the right-hand side. You can check the required field. It'll now fill in, so that is a yellow field. And now when Tony goes to sign, it's going to stop here at this field for him to type in the year, and it'll make it a lot easier for him to then go through and check all the correct boxes and fill in the rest of the seller's property disclosure. So I'm going to scroll down, double check everything. Everything looks good to go. All the fields are mapped correctly. So this is what I was saying earlier. All these fields that are mapped yellow to Tony, if you were to have selected room participants, you would have had to go through here and manually add each one of these text fields, which I
Gotcha.
know you don't want to do.
Right.
So scrolling down, perfect. We have signature, date signed, perfect. So we're good with the seller's property disclosure. I'm going to come down to the community association disclosure, and it's going to be the same thing. All these fields are mapped to Tony, but none of them are required. Well, I don't know what type of association Tony has. So what I can do is I can come down here to the name of association, click on that text box, and I can make that field required. And this again will stop Tony to fill it in and make it a lot easier for him to check the boxes up here and fill in the rest of the information for this disclosure. Scrolling down. Here's our signatures, so they have their initials there. Now we're scrolling down to our affiliated marketing. Now here we're missing signatures, not a big deal. We can just manually add them really quickly. That's why we double check. So I'll click on signature, add that right there, and then date signed, add that here. Now I need to do the same for Pepper. So I'll click on Pepper's name, signature, add that right there, and then date signed. So now they're good to go with that. Scroll down to the wire fraud prevention. Now, for whatever reason, DocuSign moves the signature fields. I don't know why. When Michael puts them in, it's in the correct place, but it moves them here. So just double check and make sure if you need to move them, you can. And now we have our purchase and sale agreement, same thing. Let's go through, double check everything. Oh, you'll notice here for the purchase price, I had put a comma in that purchase price, but it removed it. So I don't know why they don't allow commas in this purchase price field, but just double check to make sure that the price is correct.
Yeah, interesting, because you've got it in the closing cost.
Yeah.
They should
I don't
fix
know.
that.
So we have our initials there. Scrolling down, make sure everything else is good. All right, lots of text. Here we have our exhibits, and then our special stipulations. And I told you earlier that if you needed to add more steps, you could add a text box. And it's at this portion of DocuSign that you would add that text box. So if you wanted to, you can come up here, select yourself from the dropdown. Go over here, you can add a text box. Text, and drag that over here. And then you can just start typing in additional steps, more. Now you can see that I've added too many stipulations here that I have to scroll. Well, you can't scroll in a PDF. So what you can do is you can highlight all of them, and then you come over to the menu in the right-hand side and click formatting. And I can update this font to 7-point font and make them really small. So that's how you can fit more stipulations on that page. Now, again, this is what I'm saying. You're not going to make any friends with teeny tiny steps, but it is a way that you can fit more into this small space. Again, I would recommend just using the additional stipulation page.
Yeah.
And I'm also going to uncheck the required field and then check the read only field. So then that way, this stipulation appears when everyone goes to sign. Scrolling down, we go to our signatures. Again, we have our clients' email addresses here, and I don't want those to show up for that co-op agent, just to be safe. Well, what you can do is you can add a black box over them. It's not the most beautiful looking thing, but it is a way to protect your clients. So if you come over here on the left-hand side to markup tools, and then select line, you can then add a line over the email address. It's going to default to red, but you can come over here and you can change the color to black, change the thickness to 10, and then just position that right over the email address. And there you go.
Perfect.
Yep. And then I'm going to right mouse click, copy, paste, and I'll pull that over the other seller's email address. So now our client's information is protected without messing up my ability to email them to sign these documents. Scrolling down, my signature and everything is good to go. So I think we are all set to send this out. If you want to look at a preview of what it'll be like for your clients, you can click on recipient preview. And then you can select whichever client you want to look at. And then you can see what it'll look like for your client to sign on a computer, on a tablet, and a mobile phone. So if your clients are out and about and you need to get that multiple offer situation in immediately, they can sign on their phone. It's going to be real small and hard for them to see, but they can still do it. So this just gives you the ability to double check to make sure that everything is mapped correctly to your clients. When you're done with the recipient preview, you can click on the X in the top right-hand corner. And now we have everything good to go. I'm going to click send, and this is going to send this out for signature to everyone. So I'm going to pull up my email really quickly. So let me just pull up Gmail. And then I'm going to pull up my KWFA tech email, which is what I use to sign on behalf of Tony. So here you can see I have an email from myself, Nicholas Core via DocuSign. Please DocuSign 1234 Main Street, exclusive seller listing agreement and purchase and sale. Click on that to open. Scroll down. Here's that private message for just Tony, and then please review and sign. So I'm going to click review. So now we're going to be signing as Tony. I'm going to agree to use the electronic records and signatures, continue, and then I'm going to click start. And it's going to jump me to that first required signature field. So similar to .loop, it just goes from required field to required field. So I'll click sign. It's going to ask me to confirm the signature. They can draw their own or upload one if they'd like. Click adopt and sign. And now it's going to jump to that next required field, which is the seller's property disclosure. And this is what I was saying, if you make this what year is a residential dwelling constructed, you can have your clients fill that in, and it makes it a lot easier for them to then come down here and check all these boxes. And then they can type in info here, scroll down. And I'm not going to check all these, but I just want to do some of them. So when Pepper goes to sign, you can see what it looks like.
So if I had been put required at all those explanations even, they would have to put something there?
Correct. So
Okay.
I wouldn't recommend making the explanations required.
Right.
Just so that way it's like if they don't have anything to put there, you don't want them just to type something for the sake of putting it there.
Yeah.
So filled in some of those dots. I'm going to scroll down. I'll just check a bunch of these here. No specific order. All right. I come down here. Now Tony is able to sign, so I'll sign for Tony. And then it's going to jump me to the community association disclosure. And again, it's going to stop at the name of HOA. So I'll put name of, and then I can more easily scroll up and I can say, okay, we have a mandatory homeowners association with $1,000 that is paid in 4 installments. Any other fees, person's name. Then you can just fill in contact info, email, address, and then scroll down. And again, can more easily select these items. And then Tony can initial. It'll jump to affiliated marketing, wire fraud, purchase and sale, initial, scroll all the way down. Tony can sign. You can see his email address is blacked out there. So click sign. And now Tony is almost done, but you need to make sure that your clients click the finish button. So they have it at the very bottom here, or up here in the top right-hand corner. They need to click finish. And then they will receive, well, it's going to pop up and ask them if they want to create an account. Click no, thank you. And they need to make sure they get the you're all done page. It's very important that they have the you're all done page, because since we're in a signing order, if Tony doesn't receive the you're all done, then the documents will not go to Pepper for her to sign.
Gotcha.
So now that Tony has signed, I'm going to open up my personal email so we can see the email for Pepper. Here we have DocuSign. Is this the wrong? Oh, this is the wrong one. I want my personal one. Here we go. please DocuSign. Please review and sign. So I'm going to review documents as Pepper. I agree to use electronic records and signature. Continue. Start. It's just going to jump to those required fields.
Yeah.
Confirm signature. Now it just jumped to that required field on the seller's property disclosure, but I'm going to scroll up just so that way you can see that seller 2 does have the ability to see what everything seller 1 filled in. So this gives Pepper the ability to double check the information. So this could be beneficial if you ever want your clients to double check each other. So Pepper can sign. Again, the same thing with the community association disclosure. She can go back and double check and see everything that was filled in. Initial, sign, sign, initial, sign. And now Pepper will click on the finish button. No, thank you. And now she has the "you're all done." So I'll close this. And then I'm going to come here to my personal email and it's going to say, please DocuSign 1234 Main Street. I'll review documents. Continue. Start. Sign. And now it's going to take me to this required field because remember I added that text field so I can make this document binding. So I can put in 11 p.m., fill it in, and then sign. And then I click finish. I don't want to log in, so no thank you. You're all done. Now you'll notice if I come back into Tony's email, I'll just give this a minute.
But I suggested I get another quote.
And the DocuSign will actually send out PDF copies of all of the signed forms. So I can open up this email and this just saves you one extra step of having to then follow up with signed copies because they'll automatically get them in their email.
Right.
So I'm going to go back into DocuSign. I'm going to refresh the page here for envelopes and it's going to let me know that it's completed. So we're good to go. I can click on this and it's going to show me all the times that everyone signed. Now I'm going to go into the Documents tab. And then as I said before, everything defaults into the Rooms Doc folder. So if I scroll down here, we can see that we have all these documents now that have green checkboxes that say signed on them. So these are going to be all of my signed documents. So I want to move them into their respective folders. So I'm going to select my affiliated marketing, community association, listing agreement, property disclosure, wire fraud. Did not mean to open that up. And wire fraud. I'm going to move that into the listing agreement folder. Listing docs and move. So now we have all of our signed documents. We are good to go here. Scroll down, we have our signed purchase and sale. Then this is a certification. This just, again, shows the time that everyone signed. If there's ever any questions about it, you do have this. If you need to show either the co-op agent or Lynn or whoever.
Let me see. Can you go scroll back down? Does that show the name of the, you know how I named the envelope? Does it show on that? Just curious, because how are you going to remember? You're going to have so many of those.
Yeah. So
there it is. The
yeah,
subject of the email. Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it.
So at this point, we have a couple options of what we can do. Our first step would be to upload these documents into Command, but I'm going to hold on that because I want to stay in DocuSign for a few more minutes and I want to show you some features that you have.
Okay. Can I ask one more question?
Yeah, you can ask lots of questions.
Can I delete those unsigned documents in the listing documents?
So
Just
these documents here, the form versions.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not able to delete anything in DocuSign. You do have the ability to archive. So if you really wanted to, you could archive them. However, the way that DocuSign works, it's very different than .loop, is that this blue form, the icon that says form in blue, is think of it as a template. So if you ever have to make any changes or send another version of that document, you would use this same blue form.
Okay.
So if you archive it, it won't let you add that form again to the room. Whereas in .loop, you could add 100 purchase and sale agreements to that same loop. In DocuSign, you can only add a form one time.
Okay,
So,
so those will stay there, but they'll always be at the bottom, I hope?
well, yeah, so I have them organized by newest, by how they're
Oh.
newest, so they will stay at the bottom.
Yeah, but when you add new forms into that, maybe you don't put the forms in there until you only put your documents in there that
Yeah.
are signed?
Yeah, you can, that's how you kind of can figure out what works best for you.
Yeah, I like less clutter.
Yeah.
So.
So you have the
Okay,
ability to archive it, but I recommend don't archive any of the blue forms.
I got you. Yeah, but just don't move them into your new folder until they're signed also,
Yeah.
probably. Okay.
Yep.
Got
So
it.
we do have a, sorry, go, do you have another question?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Got it. Thank you.
So one thing I like to point out here is that we do have the ability to combine documents. So if you wanted to follow up with your clients and say, hey, here's a packet of all of your signed documents, especially maybe once you go binding on a new property, you can combine them here in DocuSign. So I'm going to select all the documents that I want to combine. And then up here in my toolbar, I can roll my mouse over to the combine icon. You can select that. And now I can give this a new document name. So I can name this 1234 Main Street, executed listing agreement. And now I can drag these documents in the correct order that I want them to be in. So I can click on the listing agreement and then just drag that into the first position, and seller's property disclosure, community association disclosure, affiliated marketing, and wire fraud, and click save. The page will reload. And then if I come down to the room docs folder, I now have that new document of 1234 Main Street executed listing. So I'm going to drag that into my listing folder. And here we go. So now I can open this up and it's going to show me, the 22 some odd pages of all these documents combined. Well, I guess it's being built.
Yeah.
So you were able to combine that and then you could download it. I could select it, download it, and then email that to my clients and say, hey, here's everything in one place. Also the same if you have a co-op agent, maybe that's like, please send me all contract documents as a single PDF. You can do that here as well.
Perfect. Love it.
The other option I want to show you, which hopefully this will load, is let's say you are the listing agent and you receive a single PDF from your co-op agent and you want to break them out into different documents. You can do that in DocuSign as well.
Okay.
So the way you would do that is you would come to add, and then you would upload the document from your computer. And then for today's example, I'm just going to use this document that I just combined. So I'm going to open it up. And now you can see I have 21 pages here. Well, up here in the top right-hand corner, we have this icon. It looks like a piece of paper with the corner dog-eared. This is document actions. And you can roll your mouse over that and then come down to split. And this will allow you to split this single document into multiple documents. So over on the left-hand side, we're able to give each new document its own name. And then on the right-hand side, I can roll my mouse over the little thumbnails to preview exactly what they are. So I can come over here and I can give this a new name. So I can say signed exclusive seller listing agreement. And I can type in, I want it to be pages 1 through 9. It highlights those pages so I can double check that I have the right pages selected. And then I'll click add document because now I want to add a second document. And this will be my seller's property disclosure. And I'm going to do pages 10 through 16. So 10 through 16, highlight, double check. Now I'll do my community association disclosure. And this will be page 17 through 19. Then I'll add my affiliated marketing disclosure.
And now let's say you don't want the other two.
Oh, so if you don't want the other two?
Yeah. So
You
that's
just-
all I want to do.
Yeah, I just want those 3 documents. I can leave that as is and then click save. It'll reload. And then down here, my room docs folder, I now have my community association signed listing agreement and SPD. So I can highlight each or select those and I can move those into my, oh, excuse me, wrong one. can move them into my listing agreement folder. And that's how you can split those documents up.
Perfect. Okay.
So,
Yeah, because when we go to command, do we have to do that in order to get it into each of those little
yep,
sections? Okay.
that is correct. So now that we have all of our signed documents, we have them organized however we want. Our next step is to upload them into command to send to Lynn and Alita for compliance review. So to do that, I'm going to click back into command over here.
Wait, where did you go? You just hit back in DocuSign or what?
No,
Or you just went into command. I see.
I went back to the command tab that I had opened.
Yep.
So now we're in command. We just start uploading the documents. We see we have a list of all these documents here. It lets us know if they're required or conditionally required. So I'm just going to start uploading them. So you can do them one by one, or you can do multiple at a time. I'll show you both ways. To do one by one, come over here to add a file. Click on that, and it will select source of documents, DocuSign. And this is going to show us all of the documents that we have in DocuSign. But because we created a folder, I can select the listing docs folder, and then I can just scroll down here and I'll find the seller's property, the exclusive seller listing agreement, or I can select this one up here and make sure you select the signed version, because it will also show the unsigned version, which is going to be that form. So I'll just double check that it's -signed and then click assign.
Yeah, another reason I think I'd leave the forms in the room.
Yeah, that's why for me personally, I like to have a separate folder for binding documents or completed documents.
Yeah.
So we've added our listing agreement. Now let's attach multiple files. So I can come over here and click attach multiple files, because I don't want to do this one by one. Again, I'll select the DocuSign as the source, and then I will scroll down to my community association disclosure. And then this is going to show me all those documents. So I'll scroll down. Here we have our community association disclosure signed. So I'll select that. Seller's property disclosure, I'll do the same. Come down to seller's property disclosure -signed. Then we have our affiliated marketing. Affiliated marketing disclosure, signed. And then our wire fraud. Come down. Wire fraud prevention notice. So now I have all those documents assigned, and click attach, and it will load and add those here.
Beautiful.
So pretty simple. Now, let's say you have a document that there is not already a list for here or a place for it here. You can click on the add item. So, and then you can add any document you want. So I can just do combined docs, and then document type. There's a list here for the document type. It's not going to affect it at all, the compliance review, but try to select the document type that is most similar to it. So I'll just do agreement. And then again, I can select DocuSign. You do have the ability to upload if you wanted to. And I'm going to select the 1234 Main Street executed listing agreement, because that's all those forms combined, and click save. And has now added those here.
Right.
Now I'm going to go to the under contract folder. So let's pretend, just for today's example, we have our purchase and sale agreement when binding. So I'm going to add that here, DocuSign. And I'll come here to the purchase and sale agreement -signed and assign. So for today's example, let's say, okay, I'm the listing agreement, or I'm the listing agent. We had this binding document, but unfortunately, those buyers decided to terminate. Well, you don't need to create an entirely new opportunity for this. What you can do is you can come up here to where it says under contract. There's a drop down arrow, select that, and then you can add version. And this will give you under contract version 2, and you can create a new version. And what that will do is it'll now give you an option with all these fields, these documents blanked out, so you don't have to override or delete any. So now when you get your next offer, you can fill in all this information. And if there's ever any questions about that previous contract, you do have the ability to click back and forth, so if you can go and double check those files.
Gotcha. Good.
So once you are good with uploading all of your documents. The Submit MC button will be activated in the top right-hand corner, and you'd click to submit to MC, and this would submit to Lynn and Alita for compliance review.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That was great. Thank you.
So lots of information. I can also send you the DocuSign guide that I put together, which basically goes through step-by-step everything we just talked through, but in a bullet point form.
Okay, that's fine. But I think I got it because I did play around in it some. So that was very helpful. And I got a couple of tips from you too. So love
Okay.
it.
Well, as you're playing around in DocuSign, please do not hesitate to call me, text me, let me know how I can help. Usually most often it'll just take like 2 or 3 minutes on the phone and we can work something out.
Great. All right.
Well, thank you,
Nick.
Christina.
Appreciate it. Have a great day.
Thank you, you too.
Bye.
Bye.